Hi, Ottawa, and welcome to this week's episode of Let's Chat with. So excited to introduce you to today's guest. Maybe she needs no introduction to many of you. You probably find her a familiar face for those of you that have been watching Rogers TV for many, many years, because we co-hosted Daytime Ottawa together for 5 years, have remained the best of friends. Today, joined by the one, the only, TL Rader. I should start with this. Party on! Excellent!
Excellent! On! Party on, dude! Shall we?
Party on, Garth! Sweet!
Yeah.
How are you?
Wow! Oh, I am so much better when I'm with my buddy.
I agree. Virtual hugs coming your way.
Virtual hugs. You know, do your viewers know you do this at the crack of dawn?
They probably do not know that. Yes, it's an early morning that we force our guests.
We're in a pandemic, for crying out loud.
I know. It's not like you had anything else to do. Just sleep in the rest of the week.
That's right. I know. It's great to see you, bud. And congratulations on all the fun things you're doing around the city. It's wonderful.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, it's been, I'm very grateful to be doing something. That's we'll get to your struggles and the impact the pandemic has had on yourself and, of course, Chris, your dance business. It's just been devastating. But before we get to that, I want to, for viewers that are familiar with you, but they don't know sort of the history of TL Rader, I want you to take me back and talk a little bit about, where you grew up, was like before we move into the dance and television side of things. So, hey, my friend.
My goodness, wow, very open. I don't even know where to start. Well, first of all, I'll start from the beginning. Like you said, I grew up in the Maritimes. I still consider to be a Maritimer at heart. I was born in Cape Breton.
Yeah.
And I spent a lot of years there. My dad was in the RCMP, moved a lot. We, just as we got comfortable somewhere, we packed up and went somewhere else. At the time while you're a kid, it obviously seems traumatic to do that. But when I look back on it now, a really pivotal and important part of the creation of who I am. Because,
really? So how so?
Because, I can remember, grade 6, showing up, brand new school, don't know anyone, and I just get on with it. Hi, I'm TL. By the time I was Terry Lynn, and you'd have to make friends, and so on in life, when it became important, as you know, two of us to walk into a room full of strangers at an event or whatever, I needed any going in and introducing myself and speaking in front of crowds, and I feel like it helped my as an adult, even though it was so difficult as a child. It sort of took that. You got to get on with it. You just got to make friends. You got to go into a room, put out your hand, and say, "Hi, I'm TL. Can we be friends?" So that was
I can completely see that. Yeah, absolutely. And did that give you almost that idea that you liked adventure, you travel? Did it shape you in that manner?
I don't think so at the time, because our biggest travel as kids was to go to an expo game. We went to PI on the beach, or we went this was our thing. But I feel it definitely gave me a sense of people. I loved to meet people. And I do envy some of these people, and you're one of them actually, that had roots somewhere their entire life, and they're still friends with their high school buddies. And while I'm still connected with everybody, Facebook and social media, I never had those friends hung out with from kindergarten straight through until they're still friends. 50s now and they're still friends. So that's that's definitely something that's, I wouldn't change it for the world. I'm so lucky to have lived in different places, to have met so many amazing peoples from different cities and different provinces. And that made a big difference. But I will say that when I came to Ottawa, that was it. Ottawa was home.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So what was Ottawa in the first place?
Well, so we were still living in Fredericton, New Brunswick, and I was applying to different universities. Accepted here to Carleton at Ottawa. And I was so excited because I was going to get to live on my own for the first time and get an apartment. I was so excited. And then, like 2 months after I got my acceptance from Carleton, my dad told me that mom and dad were transferred to Ottawa. I was like, so, right? So there we were.
That is classic.
Yeah, typical, following me, making typical Paula, right? Making sure that I'm keeping in line.
Oh yeah.
But I did go to Carleton, and I immediately sort of entrenched in the city here. I worked in every bar and restaurant that you can ever remember. I still have Odiotes stamps on my wrist. You know, I worked at all the fun places in the market, and I worked at the Bulldog. I worked in many different restaurants around town.
Great memories. Those are great spots.
I know, it was so fun, and I just loved it. I down here on Elgin Street. I still live in this neighborhood, and I just loved it. I loved living in Ottawa. I loved going to school here. I knew that no matter where my life took me, I would always come back here, and that's exactly what happened.
Well, and you know that I look to your relationship with your husband as one of the most beautiful relationships. And as you've just described, I've met many, many, many couples, and I have never met anyone with a relationship like yourself. My wife and I talk about it. Mutual friends of yours and mine, we talk. My family talks about it. Tell me about meeting. No, I mean it. You're just such a wonderful couple. And if I was to, I want you to look at a relationship, and this is what you should strive for. It would be the relationship you have with your husband, Chris. So tell me how you and Chris.
Well, thank you for all of those lovely words. He is my soulmate. There's no doubt about it. And it's funny because you asked me about my life before. And it's funny because I never think about my life before, because I know this is going to sound so cheesy, so bear with me. I feel like my life began with him. Like I rarely think about my life. We've been together 25 years this June. And so that's half my life, and it's else. And we've been through, we've been through some crazy storms and beautiful sunsets, and I wouldn't change a minute of that either. I met him. It was quite serendipitous, actually, because I mentioned I went to Carleton, then I went to Algonquin. I did a computer science degree, and I finally got that job. I got the job. I've got the good salary coming in. I'm working in a consulting firm. I'm finally a grown up, and so I said that the first thing I wanted to do when I was actually making a paycheck was dance lessons. That's what I wanted to do for myself,
Nice.
And so I called all studios around the city. I called everybody, and I got him on the phone one day. And I asked him about the lesson specials, and I wanted to learn how to dance salsa so bad because I was going to Cuba by myself on a day. I wanted to learn how to dance salsa. And he told me about the specials. It lasted about 5 minutes, and then we sat on the phone talking for another hour and 15 minutes, just about nothing.
Really?
About nothing.
Unbelievable.
And I said to my girlfriend, my best friend, who ended up being the maid of honor at our wedding, my roommate at the time, I hung up the phone and she said, "Who was that?" And I said, Natalie, to the man I'm going to marry.
That's amazing.
That was it.
Yeah.
And then so
No, I believe it.
Yeah, that was it. I call it love at first speak. Yeah.
And then so you start taking dance lessons, and then it turns into your career. You and Chris end up on cruise ships for many years, right?
Yeah. So it was kind of funny because I started taking lessons like in the spring of that year, and I'm very happy to say that I picked up the techniques and the dancing. Like Chris tells me now that he taught me everything he knew in months. I picked up. It was really astonishing. Now that I look back and after my years in the industry, I learned really fast and I loved to perform. It goes back to our conversation before, right? I loved to perform. So we started doing like around the city, and we both loved to travel. Both of us, Chris and I both loved to travel.
Right.
And he really wanted to go on a cruise that Christmas. Okay. So he always talked about going on a cruise. And I was, and this is back, I mean, I'm dating myself, but the internet didn't barely exist. So like, if you had a website or if you had any kind of internet savvy, you were pretty cool. So I was on different websites, shopping for cruise trips, and I stumbled upon a website that was advertising for dancers for cruise ship. So I sent it to Chris. That's how long ago it was. I sent it to Chris. Right? Ding, 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 ding. So I sent it to Chris just with a note on it that said, "Hey, honey, instead of going for Christmas, why don't we good? Ha ha." And then my phone rings at my desk. I pick it up. He goes, "Let's do it." Audition. And I was like, "You're insane. What is your problem?" Let's go to the dance studio. I had finally this great job. Like, you know what if we got to lose just to go to the audition? So we packed up our stuff, got in the car, went to the audition. Well, don't we get the job? Wow. So we're driving home from Toronto, just going, oh my goodness, what do we do? And it was really my boss at the time, Perry Stoneman from Certus Concept Online. I had a meeting with him, and he said, TL, he said, at the time I was 25, 25 years old, you've got no kids, no mortgage, go. It was a 6-month contract. He said, time, your job will be here, just go, you know? So I was like, whoa. I mean, for me, it was a win-win, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh my goodness. And Chris was having sort of the similar situation where a couple of his students wanted to take over the studio. We were like, okay, I guess we're going to go. So the next conversation I had to have, remember I told you about my RCMP father?
I thought this was coming.
Yeah. I remember at dinner, we still had our Sunday dinners, right? They lived in Orleans. And I was like, yeah, so, I just finished 7 years of school and, I'm all established. Well, that guy I just met, we're going to quit my dance on a cruise ship.
Oh my God. Your dad's reaction.
They were like
amazing.
This. You're going to what? Like, it was so funny.
What?
But I will say, fast forward, my mom and dad on the ship to visit us in February. So this was now like 6 months later. And they saw us perform. And my mom was sitting there in the audience. We came out after our little show and she was like, Terry Lynn, I have never seen you as happy as I just saw you right now. She said, you totally did the right thing. But I will just tell you something funny about making this move. So what was funny as well is we had to travel to England for our training. Every time we would start a cruise ship, we would have a training course basically It was in England.
Right.
And so there's Chris and I. Again, we really barely knew each other. Okay. Chris and I sitting on the plane on the way to England, and all of a sudden, each other, and we were like, what did we just do? We don't know who's on the other side. We barely know each other. I mean, it was just so, all of a sudden, like, we were like, what are we doing on this plane traveling to? It was pretty funny, but all this to say, it was the right thing to do. We had a magical time. Traveled all over the world, all over Europe, all over. We traveled so much. Especially now, how grateful am I for opportunities when we can't leave the house. I mean, it really was something wonderful, and we're lucky to have done it so young too. We got to sort of travel all over. A lot of people, they do it the opposite. They do it once they're retired and in the 60s or whatever. We really had a magical time, and that was that's why I said serendipity.
Turned into what though? Like how many years?
Good point, my friend. Good point. 6 months turned into. Because every time our contract was up for renewal, the ship would go to a different area of the world. So we would go back and forth. We'd go to all around the Mediterranean. We'd go up to the Baltics. We'd go across and do like Central America. We did the Panama Canal. Like I don't even know how many times. I can do the tour guide thing for the Panama Canal. So I just kept saying, do you want to do another 6 months? Let's do another 6 months. So that lasted 2 years. But then we came home again because we came home to get married and compete. That's when we started competing professionally.
I'll fast forward a bit because I don't want to run out of time, but we'll get back to dance, of course. But then you fall into television, just as I did. I mean, I know the story, but how did this opportunity come to be?
Well, we stayed on ships for quite a long time. And then on one of our breaks from the ship, because we used to go for 6 months, we'd come home for about 4 weeks or so. Again, serendipity. I happened to be flipping through the newspaper, the Citizen or the Sun, something I can't remember, and there was, and my sort of like hidden desire was always to, like, I love to do this, I love to chat, I love to talk with people, and my hidden desire was to be Kelly Ripa.
Yeah.
To have
I remember.
Like it was a desire to sort of be like that. And so I opened the newspaper, and there's another ad for an audition saying audition host for a local show, and it was Chris. He was like, you should do that. He says, all you do is watch those talk shows. He said, you should do that. And I was like, you're mad. You're crazy. There's no way. He said, come on. And he made me go up to the apartment and videotape you for, because you had to say your name and who you are and blah, blah, blah. And he said, and he took it right away. He took it. He brought it to Rogers Station. And then the beautiful Lynn Whitehead gave me the call.
Such a wonderful person to work with. Great friend. Great person.
If I ever write a book, she will have a chapter.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. That was like, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, but you didn't hire me.
Don't say you didn't. I had nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it. They don't trust me with that kind of thing.
No, but it actually, I didn't get the job. And I went back on the cruise ships again. And then you had some transitions within your department. I don't even really remember. One of your co-hosts that took over was leaving. And so Lynn called me back and said, hey, are you still interested? And I was like, yes, I'm still interested. It was just something that was one of those things where it's like, what have I got to lose? So that's what actually kept us home. That's what I've been home because of you.
And I really feel, and we mentioned it on Facebook recently, was, I really felt that was felt like almost the peak of community television. here in
that
Ottawa.
show.
I mean, not just our years. I'm talking about, when daytime sort of began. You're going back to the times, and
Oh yeah.
Jeff Mahler was the host as well at one point. I'm trying to names, Jennifer Rennick. What's that? Sorry?
We were part of an amazing pack. Like that, we had some great, and like it really. I'm sure this happens to you, especially because you're still very involved in media. But I can still go to the grocery store, and they're like, "TL from Dave, still see Derick," like every single time. It's amazing how people loved that show. They loved the community. And it really was, like you said, that was it was amazing.
Well, and I think, we connected so quickly, right? We became like best buddies. What you saw on TV is exactly how we were in quote unquote real life. At events, when we got together with family and friends, I just get connection with you. You know why too? Because you are such a good. So many people, I think, get into media, and I like to think I'm the same way as you. And they try to new persona about themselves, and they don't want to pick on themselves or pick on others. But you and I, we had this ability to pick on each other, and we're such good sports, and all in good fun, right? Where you can see sometimes if people are picking on each other, it's there's something behind the scenes going on. You and I, we were just having fun.
Yeah, I can't agree more with that. Like, we laughed so much. I mean,
so much.
After, and people would often comment, just like what you just said, when we would go to events, like the poor people that ever tried with us and get anything done. Like we had such a time. We laughed so hard. It's true. It was not put on. And I think for me personally, you went on to do some amazing things with your show in Montreal and all those things, but I never wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to wake up in the morning and make people laugh. And, we used to talk about events, but we would always take the light side of everything and have fun with everything. And I look on those days and with such fondness, and the people that we met and the people that we interviewed. I mean, I can remember the questions I asked some people. It was just magic. It was absolute magic. Yeah. And you are magic. And for those who are watching, when we are together, even now, it is quite the same.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Most of our friends would say it gets a little strange. There's no doubt about it. What is happening with you two?
Especially our spouses, our poor spouses.
Yes. There's no doubt about that. So that brings me to the next part of your story. I am on vacation with my beautiful wife, and you to leave the show.
Oh, I know, the hardest decision. Honestly, decision of my life. I'm getting a little bit, I know, I still get like that when I think about it. I was turning, I was now not, I mean, that show, people don't realize it's 75 hours a week work. It was constant, right? Because it's not just what you see on TV. It's like, oh, tomorrow you have an author on the show. Here, read her book. Then you've got, ceremonies, and you have to MC this and go to that. I mean, it was a lot of work. So I was losing touch because I went to daytime as both a dancer and doing this something new. I was losing touch with my dance family and my dance identity. Chris was having students, they didn't even know who I was. And we were always a team. He was doing great, holding down the fort while I was playing all over the city with you. And but I kind of came to a crossroads where I had to make a choice between continuing on, which, it's community television. I wasn't Kelly Ripa. Let's be honest.
I hear you.
Or getting back to my dance roots. And
Right.
and I knew that if I joined Chris again and we were again, we could build a really fantastic business. But he needed me to help with that.
Right.
And he couldn't
Yeah.
do it by himself. And then so I was like, oh, I've got two husbands in my life that I love so much. But I knew that when I looked long term, especially with what was happening in our industry and shows were being canceled all over the place and everybody, media was losing everywhere and cuts, 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 you know. So I had to make a decision that was so painful, but also was wonderful too, because I'm back with my love. I'm working. We built our business together. I knew that it would take me long to retirement. I knew that, and it now looking back 10
Yeah.
years later, built a really strong, like successful business, and then the
No doubt.
pandemic.
Yeah, well, and we're running out of time, so I want to get to that quickly. I mean, basically, TL, the pandemic, and I should mention, by the way, as well, this beautiful young girl, this beautiful baby came into your life, Sienna, who's one of my favorite people of all time. But we've got about a minute left. But the pandemic itself, I mean, the impact it's had, I mean, you've pretty much been closed since the pandemic began, right?
I have not worked in March of 2020. We have been open 3 times, but only for months, and people aren't coming back. They, you know, I mean, we're the antithesis of physical distancing. We ask people to touch each other, sweat, and partners, you know.
Yeah.
So people have not been coming back, and so there's really work for Chris, and even then he's not busy. So and then since this latest lockdown, we've been not working again. So it's been very frightening, but I have hope and faith. We're all back together, and everyone. This whole thing is over. We'll make. We'll get it back up there.
Well, and I mean, your industry's just been devastated. I've talked to, you know, the martial arts industry, that, you know, the same sort of thing, right? I mean, their whole on contact, and you know, you haven't been able to do so. But you know, you're probably one of the most positive, optimistic people I've ever met in my life. So everything will come back to absolute normal for yourself and Chris, and again, your beautiful daughter. Didn't have time to talk about, but I will tell you this: she's like a miracle child, almost unexpected. There she is, right there. That's the perfect way to end, right there. TL and Chris's beautiful daughter, Sienna. TL, thank you so much for spending time with us. I really appreciate it, and you know I absolutely love you. I can't wait to get together. We will remain friends for life,
forever. Yeah, forever. I'm not. Probably pops as soon as this is over.
You got that right. Thanks again. Really appreciate it.
Love you. Thanks for having me.
Love you too. Everybody, thanks so much for watching. You've been watching this edition of Let's Chat with Derick.